Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Gaming Podcast. Once again, I'm Bradley, gradually getting better. And joining me this week is someone whose partner isn't sat up on the sofa behind them moaning because we won't dedicate a podcast to them because they've hurt their ankle. It's Stu. How you doing, Stu?
Yeah, I'm okay. No, I haven't got somebody directly behind me, but I've always got an insistent little voice in my head. And I thought it was probably my wife's, but no, I think it. Now that I've worked it out, I think it's probably Satan.
No, that's me.
Ah, that makes much more sense. Because I don't believe in the devil, so... Yeah, I believe in you, and you are something to be frightened of. So
I am. This is our delayed spoopy season episode, then. I'm something to be afraid of. But, yeah.
Without a doubt.
Just one bit of business to go through. I was back out and about in the public consciousness, so to speak, the last week, going to appointments and stuff. Buses are death tubes. That's all I really want to say. A bus is an absolute death tube. Woman got on the bus and asked some other old fella behind me if she could sit next to me, and he went, no, because my wife's getting on the bus. And then she just came and sat next to me, didn't ask, no mask. And when I said, excuse me, would you kindly not sit next to me because you're not wearing a mask, she got very, very uppity and angry with me. I was like, no, I don't. You've not got a mask on. Don't sit next to me. And when I went, I'm getting over COVID, she quickly moved.
Yeah, that would do it. Yeah, no, it's amazing how selfish people can be until they're, it's pointed out that they're at risk.
Yeah. I was like, I thought that was quite funny. Do you know what else puts you at risk?
What?
Lack of video games. So we better start talking about them.
Very true.
So I've got a lot this week. You've only got a couple, really, haven't you? So should I kick off?
Yeah, please do.
I'm going to kick off with a bang. An absolute bang. I've been playing what would have been considered AAA titles about half a decade ago. But I've been playing, to start with, the remasters of Crysis 2 and Crysis 3 on Switch.
Right.
Ooh. Now, we spoke about Crysis 2 recently, and we both agree it's very good. I don't think it's controversial to say that Crysis 2 is the best. Crysis comes second and Crysis 3 slips in just about third. Nothing wrong with Crysis 3, and I'll come to that in a sec. Crysis 1, I felt, had lots of good ideas, and it was like a technical showpiece. But I thought Crysis 2 was just much more fun. And it's still a fun game. The fact is, you could just I love the idea of an overpowered protagonist, and that's what you get in Crysis 2. You could kind of walk through that like you're the Terminator, but without any resistance whatsoever at times. It's just like invisible, yeah, that'll do. Hardened suit, so you can't actually be hurt, that'll do. Shoot everything you see. Few corridor sections into nice big set pieces. Oh, what a wonderful game it still is. And I've been playing it on the Switch, and yeah, just pick it up for 5 minutes, have a blast around. I think I've stuck it on the easiest mode because I've played it a few times over, and I don't want the challenge, I just want to shoot crap. And Crysis 2 is still, I think, one of the most underrated FPS titles of the last decade. Coming in probably slightly behind Titanfall 2 for me. It eclipses and it outlasts, I think, any of the more recent Call of Duties. And just the way it works, I think it takes everything that works with Crysis and strips back the stuff that made it a bit inaccessible and just made, I think, one of the most amazing FPS titles of the last few years.
Very cool. Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on the Crysis series. So, first off, yeah, I disagree on the order. That doesn't mean you're wrong. Well, actually it does, but I'm just being polite. No, I've watched, just to backtrack a little bit, I've watched a lot of Digital Foundry videos, and they confirmed something that I'd heard as a rumour, which is that the Xbox and PlayStation 3 versions of Crysis, the original game, they don't have all the AI in them. Mm-hmm. And all the AI routines were available in the higher stages, the higher difficulty stages of the original game on PC.
Yeah.
And they weren't included because of memory reasons on those consoles. So that's a big thing. But then they cocked up massively when remastering these, because they remastered them from an engine that was built for the consoles. So you're still not getting the original Crysis experience because it still doesn't have all the AI routines. And the original Crysis is very, very much like Halo CE when you're playing it on Heroic or Legendary, in that it's got really clever AI and it transforms the game. So I think that it scores lower these days because the AI just isn't there, and that's through poor remastering. And they got such a lashing for the Crysis remaster when it was released solely on its own that they actually asked Digital Foundry to help them. The Crytek team did, when they were doing 2 and 3, and they also took control of it rather than letting a third-party developer do it. And from what it sounds like, the remasters of those two are much more successful.
Yeah.
So that's the first bit. But I entirely understand your ordering. And I completely agree with Crysis 2 being a fantastic and underrated game. It's really, really good. I think it hit 2 problems. One, again, that Digital Foundry told me, but another one that, just know for myself. So the one that Digital Foundry told me was that it ran at like 10 frames per second on like PS3 and Xbox 360. Now, I played it on PC, so I didn't have that drawback. So I was there going, oh, this game is great. And then looking around going, guys, why isn't nobody saying this?
Yeah.
And I think it's because the console ports were nigh on unplayable. And the other thing is, I think...
I didn't care back then either, so I played it and enjoyed it, so there you go.
Yeah, but you are a rare and beautiful flower, you see. And
yes.
Not all people are. But yeah, I think also the other thing was that there were a lot of, shooters coming out, FPSs at that time, and I think that it was a bit of a glut. Especially on console, and lots of people trying new things, and I think that with making technical mistakes, that kind of shoved it right to the back of the queue as well. So it really deserved this remaster. It's such a shame that they buggered up Crysis. I really hope they come back to it in a few years again and just go, Crysis PC version remastered, and just stick everything in there and charge a $5 for it, or do an update to the existing remastered collection at some point, call it a special edition, anything. Just get the original game out there. And the final thing on it, the reason that they don't is because the original Crysis on PC was so heavily single-threaded and so reliant on processor speed, because they thought that Moore's Law was going to carry them forward with processor speeds doubling every year, and we'd all be on 20 gigahertz, CPUs by now, that it's really hard as a core, engine to get it working even on modern consoles and even on some PCs.
Yeah.
So what they needed to do was kind of rebuild it from the ground up, a remake rather than a remaster, but incorporating all the AI. So there you go. That's more history on Crysis than anybody would ever want.
Or ever expected this week.
Yeah, probably.
But no, I agree. I mean, I played the original Crysis on PC. I had a friend that had a really powerful PC. But he went, you've got to see this game. You have got to see this game. Watch. You can shoot the branch falls off and stuff like that. And it was like, oh my God, just wow. That was at the time where you looked at video games and went, how realistic can they get? Honestly, I think they peaked at Crysis in terms of realism, in terms of what you could do, in terms of what we needed in video games anyway. Soldier of Fortune taking off individual limbs, you had that. But anyway, I played that, and what I always found with Crysis, even playing the original PC version, back then when I was like, I'll play it all on difficult because I'm hard in it, and it was a technical marvel, it was impressive, it was enjoyable, but when I then played Crysis 2, the one thing that stuck out about Crysis 1 to me was it just wasn't fun. It was great. It was a wonderful game. It wasn't fun. Crysis 2 was fun. And I think that was the main difference for me. Crysis is still the most impressive of all the games. Crysis 2, I think, is the best overall package. And just to touch on Crysis 3, I want more games where you get a bow and arrow, like a high-tech bow and arrow. That kind of died with Crysis 3. You had some other games tried it and brought it and done other things. But the bow and arrow in Crysis 3, oh, yes, please, more of that in games. Another game built around that would be very, very welcome. And I actually think as a trilogy, Crysis is the most underrated trilogy of games out there.
Yeah, it could well be. It could well be. It's so different from game to game. So the first one, like you say, is very technical. It's a wide open space. It's more like the original Far Cry game. They were coming off the back of Far Cry. The second one is more of a linear sort of hub, well, not hub area, but yeah, more of a linear corridor shooter, but in a really, really good way that breaks out into these little kill zones every now and again. Killzone being another one that needs a remaster, but we'll come to that at another time. And Crysis 3 was much more of a sort of technical exercise. The level design isn't brilliant, but the weaponry is excellent, and the AI routines are again back to being really, really cool. And I agree with you on the bow and arrow thing. It's like a instant kill. It's a bit like the golden gun in GoldenEye, pretty much, but with the exception that you only have a limited number of arrows and you can retrieve them, and that when you get later on in the game and there's more enemies and they're more aggressive, using them to kill them but then having to get past their buddies to retrieve the arrows is a game in itself, which is a really, really excellent mechanism, and brings me back to that thing of why didn't more people copy the Gears of War thing of, active reload, where if you hit the right mark you get a bonus for doing that. And they should have done that with the Crysis thing of, you've got a bow and arrow, it's incredibly overpowered, but it's got limited things, but if you're good at stealth you can combine the two and get the arrows back, and all that. And there's a lot of stuff in there that it hasn't been built upon, and I think it's laziness with a lot of developers, and they just want either to do a cinematic thing or do a multiplayer online thing where they that kind of level of sophistication isn't required. So it's kind of a little bit lost to history.
And I think also a lot of major publishers, I would say, rather than developers, I would go major publishers, looking at games that wasn't as successful as they should have been and not understanding why they weren't successful. A guy like, it must have been everything we've done with this game, so we don't do any of this again.
That's a really good point.
Which is a shame. But yeah, both seem to run really well on the Switch. Again, I will always caveat that with, I seem to see life in 12 frames per second, apparently, so I don't notice the drops. I suppose there's a little bit of slowdown in really busy areas in Crysis 2 that I noticed, but again, nothing that, if I enjoyed the console versions a first time around, then it wasn't anywhere near as bad as those, and they was meant to be bad in places. So, but yeah, for me, really good ports. And the fact is, a Switch can run Crysis 1, 2 and 3. That's where we are with video games now. That's the thing.
Yeah,
something slightly
totally
bigger than a calculator from the 80s, and it can run Crysis and then some.
I know, it's absolutely insane. It's crazy. I think I saw on one of the DF videos that it's running at a pretty much locked 30 frames per second. So I think anybody would be more than happy with that on the Switch, especially when games like The Witcher 3 were crammed on and they were a technical marvel, but often dropped to like sub 20 frames per second and starts to look like a flick book kind of thing.
Well, I will be, in one of my few later games today, I will be bringing up Witcher 3 briefly, based on another game I've just played. But we're gonna move on from Crysis because people complain. They don't complain, no one writes into us, but people complain, like the fake straw man, that we're not very modern, Stu, that we play a lot of older games and stuff like that. So we rely on you. What have you been playing?
Yeah, we got the old stuff and the indie stuff covered. Luckily, I'm just with modern stuff, I'm so disappointed by so much of it that I just wait till it's cheap, and waiting until it's cheap means that it's older and therefore people aren't bothered, and that's on them, not me.
It's like having your fifth child. You just go, the first few you're like, I'm really excited for. You get to your fifth child and you just go, look, we'll wait till they're a teenager, see what sticks, and then go from there.
Yeah, do some damage reduction when
that's modern gaming.
Yeah, it is. Well, I have been involved in modern gaming, but way far away from AAA. So I've been playing a game called V Hover Racing, and so as the title might suggest, it's a VR game. I'm kind of early days. I had to put it to one side because I wasn't getting on well with the controls, and the problem is that I was like, let's backtrack again. It's a racing game where you're racing bikes, but they're hover bikes. Now it'd be like, okay, well that's just a superficial thing then, is it? Well, it's possibly not, because you can use the controllers as you would a handlebar setup. So you can hold them to your sides, shoulder width apart, and hold them on their sides rather than directly up like you would a pistol. And theoretically, then you can lean, and the headset will detect your leaning motion to steer, and twisting the controller backwards and forwards in your hand should activate the throttle, so you can choose your speed. So I gave that a go, but I was really struggling with it. It wasn't picking up the correct range of motion, so I was having to move it up rather than forward. So rather than twisting it forward like like you twist your kid's neck when they're annoying you, I was kind of like flipping it up, like when you flip them up in the air so they can land on the head when they're annoying you. So all that, don't call child services. A, I don't have kids, and B, I was only joking. But I couldn't get any of that like working properly. It just wasn't, it wasn't registering properly. And also I found finding the sweet spot for the sensitivity for the leaning motion hard to get right. So I put that kind of control method aside, and I went to using an Xbox pad, which was fine, worked straight away immediately, but then it was pretty much pointless because it just felt like any other racing game, and the courses, were just not very exciting for that kind of a play.
Yeah.
So it's between Stools at the moment, which is unfortunate, but I'm really hopeful that I can tweak it enough so that I can get the intended setup to work, because if it works, that will be really, really good.
Yeah, no, it sounds really interesting. I'm always gutted to hear that the holding like handlebars doesn't quite work as well as you'd hope, because that just sounds really cool. I'm thinking the idea of playing like a mountain biking game in VR, but holding something like handlebars and doing that. That I'd almost accept some plastic tack to sort of like put it into, because that sounds like that'd be really fun to play in like VR, doing that kind of thing.
Yes, well, it seems to be. It seems like if it works, it will be. But there's one big caveat, and anyone who owned a Wii will understand this. When you were playing games with a Wii, how often were you holding up the nunchuck and the remote, and how often were they just gently rested on your thighs while you did the did the stuff?
Yeah.
Because most of the time it was resting on your thighs, and with this handlebar setup, you've got to keep your arms up. You can't have them just resting down. I mean, maybe technically you could tweak it so that you could, but then it wouldn't feel like handlebars anyway. So
no, but if you played, I don't know if you used any of the Labo stuff.
No, I never did.
So there was one Labo thing that's like a bike steering thing. You build all the cardboard up, and you kind of like it kind of rests and gives you a platform, so you've got a physical thing to hold with the Joy-Cons in either side. So it actually feels like you're turning it and twisting it rather than holding it into empty space. You've got it on a physical thing. That's what I said, almost like the plastic tack would almost help in this way. So you could, whether you sit in there and you have got a bit you sit on to keep it mounted, and then it's forward and you could do it. So you've actually got a physical representation in your hands as well. That something like that could work. I think sort of like the plastic tack thing ruined it during the Wii thing, because I still think there's a lot of potential for taking motion controls and doing stuff with them, especially in VR.
Yes, there are. Yeah, there's always going to be that barrier of the physical, the physical configuration, because like you say, the tat helps because it fills in that gap quite literally in a lot of cases. The only way I think it would work if you included that in the bundle when you bought the headset, so you could have a transforming plastic piece that you could use either as a stand for games like this, so you could adapt them into racing games, and you could adapt it to be like the stock of a machine gun or a rifle, so you could use that for shooting games.
Yeah.
And you can buy that sort of stuff separately, but if it's separate, loads of people aren't going to buy it, and anyway, there's an argument that games should work out the box with the things that they're designed for. Mm-hmm. And secondly, that means remembering it, setting it up, the cost, all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's one of those that will probably be, if it does work, it will probably be confined to short blasts and stuff like that without any additional plastic tat.
Yeah.
But yeah, fingers crossed, I can get it going. If not, I might try and jury rig something that I might just lie down on my bed, and then I can pretend like I'm on a hover sled rather than a bike, and I'm doing it that way.
Yeah. What we need, I think, is you've got quite a lot of big empty buildings at the moment, haven't you? Now, I think this is a really good idea. Tell me if you think this could work. You got this big building, right? And what you do is you put video games in this big building, right? But what you could do is you could actually tailor make experiences on a single video game. So you could have like a car driving video game, but you get like an actual, almost like a car set up to sit in with an actual wheel. You could do a skiing type game and actually have skiing physical things going on. You could do like shooting games. You've got actual physical guns that you could hold and proper. What you do is you put like maybe 50p or £1 in them to play them one at a time.
Yeah, I think if that was going to work, somebody would have tried it already.
Yeah, I mean, it's something from the Ark, I suppose, and
Yeah, no, exactly. This is one of the reasons I love playing VR games, because they are the closest to an arcade experience in loads of cases, and they're really pushing things forward. But there are times where it bumps up against, really, you need something physical to complete the experience.
Yeah, I think we're going from that. Honestly, we've gone from I think that, oh my god, bringing the arcade experience into the home, that's amazing, and it was, to now I'm playing games, and I might come to one in a bit that I think could work in an arcade setting in a way, where we're looking at games and going, that'd be amazing to play as an arcade game in an arcade.
Yeah,
I don't know. Are we close? Are we close maybe to see like the arcade come back? Because there's a lot of retro arcade places popping up, isn't there, with like the old 70s and 80s cabinets that you can go and play and stuff like that. So I wonder, are we close to a proper arcade? I don't mean like you get like the crappy, like you get tickets for playing games, like proper like arcade games, arcade. I wonder if we are maybe a decade away from seeing something like that come back.
Yeah, very possibly. Yeah, there's going to be more real estate, like you say, because there's going to be fewer businesses using up space. And yeah, I think that people are taking their kids along to these things to show them the arcades of their youth. And if they like that experience, they're going to want to create modern versions when they grow up. So yeah, we could be 10 years away from something like that. That'd be great.
I mean, I've got like the 2-player Pandora box, and the part of me's going, I wish I had a bit of skill, because I would turn that into a cabinet.
Yeah.
I would build a cabinet, because it needs to be played standing up, looking at a screen. Hell, I'd even get an ashtray. I don't smoke, but I'd even get a dirty ashtray and recreate the smell and sticky floor and everything. But it's... there's something about arcades. And just as an aside, I know this is a complete aside, but have you ever been into a Smith's toy shop recently?
No, I haven't.
So in a Smith's toy shop, you can buy at the moment these dedicated build-it-yourself arcade cabinets, so about like 350 quid. It's like Street Fighter, and that's all it is. Like about, I'd say 3/4 size for what you'd get in a proper arcade, and about 1/3 the build quality. But they've got like a Pac-Man one, a Street Fighter one, a couple of other ones, and they've always got like demo units up of those in Smith's toy shops, and they're always being used. You see sort of like people sort of my sort of age going, stand back, I'm going to play a bit of Pac-Man, because that's what I used to do. And you also see kids just intrigued by these things as well. So I think there's definitely a market out there for it. What it also needs, I think, is a lot of people from our generation to maybe get over themselves a bit and not gatekeep how games should be enjoyed.
Definitely.
If we do have to put up with LCD screens or whatever, and slight changes and whatever, just to get people through the arcade doors to play Pac-Man, well, 30 different, I don't know, Namco exclusives from back in the day on a single arcade cabinet, then so be it. Don't gatekeep, because I think that's one thing that will stop arcades coming back, will be our generation gatekeeping what's acceptable.
Yeah, I completely agree. So we've reached a point where the people like Gen X, like us, who grew up with games as part of their life, they've demanded more and more deep experiences, and longer. It just translates to longer in a lot of circumstances.
Yeah.
which is, fine, but you also still need the arcadey ones, and it's kind of breaking out of the mold of thinking, well, we can't make arcade games because people demand better value for money. It's like, well, I don't think they do. I think what you could do is, like you said, you just like rent a space, and then you get into procuring some of those self-build cabinets, and also maybe getting together some PCs and putting them into boxes, putting them into stand-up cabs and sit-down cabs.
Yep.
Getting the tech, which is you can get second-hand and cheap, but is robust. So you could buy like a steering wheel for £100, and set it up with the PC, and away you go. And then you could do a thing where people pay £5 to get in. It gives them a card that they can slot into the machine, and it takes credits from it. And then you can either leave at the end of that, or you can get your card recharged and carry on playing. And all of these things use existing technology.
Yeah.
It's not like going, okay, well, to restart the arcade scene, we'd need to have bespoke cabinets that cost tens of thousands. No, you could do it really cheap and still like self-developed products that people really, really want to experience. Because ask how many people have played Half-Life Alyx, which is one of the best games of the last 10 years, and I bet you it's hundreds of thousands rather than millions. And you could have that available. You could have it playable.
Oh yeah, I'd go to an arcade and I'd happily pay, say, an extra couple of quid or whatever to get onto the VR set to play Half-Life Alyx, to give it a go.
Yeah.
Or other VR experiences. I mean, I still remember you used to have that. What was that one, like the tank, or what was it, like massive like fight war game where you put the VR unit on your head, you kind of stood in the middle of something, you still turned round and you were shooting. That was a VR experience. It was fun at the time. I used to go down to the old roller bowl where I used to live, play that, play some Star Wars Pod Racer, play some virtual tennis, and then go bowling. And again, with the gatekeeping side of it, going back to sort of like Pac-Man, on the Pandora box, I'm not going to lie, it's not a pure one-to-one experience from the original arcade game. It's not. It's playable and it's fun, and that's fine for an arcade, because who the hell is going into an arcade and wanting complete concentration because they've got to get that top score on Pac-Man? That's never what an arcade was. You do that, you turn into Billy Mitchell, and no one wants that.
Yeah, and I think, it harkens back to my, irritation with nostalgia and the way that people use it. It's weaponized. And it's kind of like, you said gatekeeping. It's all the same thing. It's like, well, you can have arcades, but they've got to have the CRTs, and they've got to have the original sticks, and you've got to have the original artwork. And I'm like, nah, screw that. I think, give people access to the older games if they want to play them, but you've proved now that there's people who go there because, they're old like me and they want to play old games. I don't, but, that's a different argument. But they're bringing kids along who are playing them as new, and they like that experience. Now, that doesn't mean that you recreate those arcades over and over and over again that are full of, Dig Dug and Puzzle Bobble and, all of that and nothing else.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, I said, and nothing else.
Puzzle Bobble. If you give me a Puzzle Bobble the arcade, I'm in.
Yeah, you see, you're undermining my argument already. You are the problem. No, I'm just kidding. Have all of that stuff, but that, is not the focus. The focus is, that's available if you want it. Here it is on a multi-arcade machine. You can select the retro game you want. Off you go. Stick three or four cabs of that in the corner. But you need to have new stuff because you want to have new experiences. And, do that and people will turn up. Promise.
Yeah, look at how people look at what some developers are doing with that what's that Playdate thing and stuff like that, where they're just one and done experiences because they're fun, cheap to do. 5 minutes, you're done, and that's what an arcade game needs to be. 5 minutes and you're done. It's why we've discussed this before, and I don't want to go too far into it, why certain arcade games never transitioned properly to the home, because they had to expand them, because they weren't anything beyond fun 5 to 10 minute experiences. And the second you tried to make them more than that, you started seeing the holes. Whereas you could make a great 5 minute experience for any system and have a great time with it, and that's suited, I think, for the arcade. And again, I think we've learned so much in terms of what we could do to create fun, that going to the arcades now can be a different experience. It can be a social experience again. We used to crowd round like when everyone was having to go with Outrun on the arcade, the one near us. There was one that had like the actual full Ferrari setup and everything. We used to crowd round. Some of us wouldn't even play it because we didn't have any cash, but we'd all crowd around the other mates who were playing it and trying to do their time, and obviously trying to stamp on the accelerator and brake when they didn't want us to, and all stuff like that. And I was offered the arm candy, sat in the passenger seat. Just going to point out, but
you fill that role beautifully.
I do. But they were fun experiences because they were social, single player games that were still social because they were fun. And I honestly think that could come back. But yeah, we've gone off on a tangent there. What game was you playing? VR hover racing or something?
I had to look it up because I keep forgetting exactly what it's called as well. But it's V-Racer Hoverbike.
Right. So coming to an arcade near you in the next 10 years.
And it'll still be new to people at that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most VR games will be.
Exactly.
I still want to play that one that you kind of like... It's a music-based one where you beat things. I don't know. I still want to play that one.
Oh, Beat Saber. Yeah, that's a cracker.
Yeah, that's the one everyone goes on about. That'd be a good arcade game.
Yes, it would. Yeah, definitely.
Right, so in the spirit of arcade games, what was really interesting? Obviously, Monkey Ball Banana Mania came out recently, and I played I was always a banana... I was always a Super Monkey Ball fan for the puzzle elements of it, the actual main game. Whereas I know a lot of people they really preferred the mini games, so I wasn't as angered when it came out over the issues around Monkey Target. But again, I'm assuming you saw some of the reactions to the Monkey Target.
Actually, no. I didn't even know it had come out. I thought it was still pending. I've paid no attention because I'm an ignoramus.
That's fine. People got angry because they changed the physics of Monkey Target. Now I get it because Monkey Target is fun. It is the best of the mini games, that and bowling. So what's happened is people go blah 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 blah. But someone, I think it's a partner. Like two partners have done it, and they've made what is essentially an expanded Monkey Target game. It's called Bonito Days, and it's kind of mainly Monkey Target, but mixed in with a little splash, shall we say, just a little sprinkle of Nights into Dreams.
Whoa, you have my attention.
And it takes the Monkey Target experience, and for the first time, and I'm wondering why it's taken more than 10, 15 years for this to happen. I've gone, look, this is a really good thing, but it can be expanded upon, and they've done it well. There are a couple of issues I personally have that others won't have. But anyway, essentially, it's not a monkey. You're like this fish kind of thing. And you kind of roll this fish down a ramp, you fling it off the ramp, and the idea is the end game to go and land it on a target and get the best score on the target as possible. But you collect power-ups and stuff like that as you go, and it's like in a way of like you go through circles and collect stars, very much like that's where you get the Nights into Dreams part on it. And it's very much expanded, so you can kind of go places with it. It takes Monkey Target, takes what look like always the fun bits of Nights into Dreams, and kind of blends them just really, really well. And it's definitely more Monkey Target than anything else, but it just works. And again, I can't believe this hasn't been done before. You play it and just go, this is so obvious. Instead of trying to like bring Monkey Target back as it was, why not just build on it? And again, it's where indie games come in, and that's what the developers of Bonito Days have done. Issues I do have, it's a very, very bright game. It's very bright, and like the color palette is very subtle. So I'm almost like can't play it at times. My eyes have to be really, really good for me to be able to play it. Otherwise, it's just too bright. I can't see the target. I can't see where the bonuses are. A dark mode would be welcome, but I get it. This is their art style, the very pastel-y type thing going on. But it's really, when I have seen it properly and I have been able to play it, I've put a couple of hours into it. I'm a fair few levels in. It's really good. Doesn't do any score tracking, no leaderboards or anything like that I've noticed. But that doesn't bother me. It would maybe be nice to do some stat tracking to try and sort of like, am I improving? Am I getting better? But at the same time, I just really enjoy the idea of playing the monkey target type thing with just an expanded scoring system. And yeah, it's just a really, really fun game. It's about £8 on the Switch. Definitely worth checking out.
Well, as you know, Knights is my favourite game of all time, or possibly, it might be Breath of the Wild, it's competing. But, it's right up there. It's absolutely miraculous to me, that game. So I am going to definitely be checking that out, probably as soon as we stop recording.
Yeah, as I said, it's more monkey target than Knights, but you will see the Knights inspiration behind it in some parts. It's really good. Up to 4 players as well, which is really good. So it's a good... Again, this is where I've got the arcade from. It's short, quick levels. Play it with 4 of you in the family, or if you've got friends round. It's just one of those perfect. It works single player, but would be a really fun game to stick on at a gathering and stuff like that as well.
Awesome. Nice one.
But dark mode, please. That's the only thing I would say, but that's probably maybe me being a little bit selfish.
I don't think so. I was, not that it really matters, but I was playing Mini Motorways the other day, and that I can't play that for more than 5 minutes without switching to a dark mode. I mean, I could turn the brightness right the way down on whatever screen I was using, but might as well flip it to dark mode, because it's that whole thing of it just being pure white the entire time. It's really awful for me. It's again, if it's bad for you, that sort of thing. Again, imagine what it's like for someone who really suffers with because of brightness and the way that bleeds into your vision and cause blurriness and everything. It just gets worse and worse. And this unfortunately does suffer from that. But this is an art style choice. It's not an accessibility issue. It's an art style choice. So I can't begrudge them too much. I'm not going to call them out too much on it. But again, just maybe a reverse palette would be nice if they could do it. Yeah, I feel like we're kind of getting to the stage where it's inexcusable now, even if you're an indie dev, because I can't see there being a big technical issue with adding in an inverted colours mode, or a dark mode or whatever. I'm looking at it now, and like all of the items that you have to collect are really brightly coloured, and it's kind of like you could just do it so you turn them black, and that would solve a lot of trouble, I could imagine. Just doing that without doing anything else, and a palette swap is nothing. So come on, people, get your fingers out.
I do. I completely agree. I said I don't want to put it on the indie devs, especially like the smaller teams, but again, I think if we can start getting indie devs doing it, it will start to feed up, hopefully, more and more. I think we'll get there one day, and I don't want to label on it as a negative thing, because I think overall this is a fantastic game, and it's I'm in a minority when it comes to this, but we'll see. Maybe they'll listen to this, take on the feedback, and just do a palette swap.
Yeah, that would be good. That really would. Yeah.
So I've got what's next from you.
Well, the next one is a real discovery. I was really, really chuffed about. Very, very fortunate to have been able to have a go of. I was watching a YouTube channel of a guy who talks about VR stuff and sort of focuses on the more sort of new and exciting experiences as often as he can. And he was going through recent like homebrew adaptations of games. There's a movement called flat screen to VR, which is exactly what it says, getting regular games to work in VR in a full manner. And they mentioned one that I thought would work really well, which is Risk of Rain 2. And Risk of Rain 2 is like a shooter. It's kind of shoot as many things as you can before you get killed. Horde mode type thing. Yeah. In cel-shaded style in the Unity engine. And I had no interest in it whatsoever until I heard it was in VR. And then I was like, that can work. That'll add an extra, literally, dimension to it. And it'll be cheap. And it was. It was $5.99. So I bought that one and did all the mod, which was actually pretty easy. And it's fantastic. So what holds back some VR mod things is that unless you've programmed in the things that you need to properly turn something VR, then it doesn't really work properly. And that means having a customizable menu that allows you to change the settings. And I'm talking about things like whether you have full free movement or whether you have incremental like degree switching of your view. So, you know, your right stick, basically, instead of it just being a smooth turn, you want it to move in larger increments because of, you know, you need that speed when you're in VR. And, you know, well, there are all sorts of other comfort and accessibility VR options, and they've got it all in there. They've custom made and added so seamlessly a VR settings addition to that menu.
All right.
And it's just honestly, you can't. Well, there's one thing that you can't adjust that was a bit of an issue for me, but only a small one. But other than that, which I'll talk about in a sec, it was absolutely, you would not know that it wasn't a VR design game. So yeah, I mean, what happens is you start off by being dropped onto a planet in a capsule, and then you have to kill as many things as you can without being killed yourself. And you choose a character to use. I've only got the 2 default ones unlocked at the moment, and the guy that I've picked is dual wielding pistols, and you have like a regular attack, a special attack, and two special options, and they could be different things like dashes and healing and, you know, all sorts of stuff like that. And it just works brilliantly. It's so good. The visuals look really good. They don't blur or kind of get too heavy. The pace of it isn't too fast so that you feel ill. The comfort options are all there. The way that you aim means that you're really efficient because you're using your hands to like aim and stuff, but you can move around with the sticks, and it just works brilliantly. There's a slight aiming tilt when you tilt your head, so which is great. It's very, very, very small. It's not like 6-axis or anything like that kind of big movements and stuff like that. It's just like a tiny tilt, which just assists with your movement. And loads of care and consideration has been put into it. It's completely free. The only thing it was missing was it doesn't have a seated mode. So there's this thing in VR options where for games that are assumed that you're going to be standing, like this sort of game, because movement is much easier in a first-person shooter when you're standing up. You can choose a seated mode, and what it will do is it will adjust the height so that it still shows your characters at standing height, even though you're sat. And it doesn't have that. So when you sat down, it looks like you're kind of scooting along on your bum in the environment.
Right,
And, it's not me being lazy. I've got a damaged knee. I can't stand at the moment for long periods, so I need sitting options. And, so that was missing. So I might tell them about that. But when I do tell them about that, that'll be one tiny sentence in a massive paragraph of just effusive praise. It's by far the best hacked together VR game I've ever played, to the point where you would not really believe it wasn't done natively in VR. And I've seen full VR releases that have fewer options about VR than this does even. So it's remarkable. It's remarkable.
Yeah, I think we need. I'd love to talk more about the modding community down the line, because they could transform games. Old games, new games, whatever. They could completely transform them, and the ones that could turn a non-VR game into a VR game, that blows my mind that they're able to do that without being the official devs and stuff like that. And amazing. Yeah, it sounds like a really fun experience. And again, I think with the modding community, it's sort of thing, again, you can feed back, and you know that there's a good chance what you're feeding back can be fixed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the game has all gone through its cycle. They're picking something up and they're tweaking it to be the best version of it that it possibly can. And I think, like you say, with the modding community, giving honest feedback about features and additions is really valuable to them as much as it is to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic thing.
Yeah, no, I'm guessing we'll hear more about that one down the line as well. It sounds really interesting. So.
Yeah, well, you'll definitely be hearing more about the whole flat screen to VR movement, because I think it's pretty big. I think it's really needed, especially as we heard about Facebook changing to Meta. Now, in the last couple of podcasts in the past, I've mentioned, I don't know, I'm not sure what they're doing with the Quest 3 or a Quest Pro. They're going to have this, Facebook announcement Day thing, and they're going to talk about it. Anyway, turns out that yes, they're going to try and force everybody to use VR/AR headsets the entire time, and it looks like their gaming model for what the Quest is going to be is going to just be like Apple Arcade, that you use it. You use that device for all sorts of functions, and gaming is just a part of it, and they're going to be small experiences. So flat screen to VR and showing that there's a market for having VR options in a mainstream game is going to be more and more important. And a really good development is that I can't remember the name of the engine, but the engine that Resident Evil 7 and 8 are based on, they've practically cracked that now. So 7 and 8 are going to get full VR modes soon, full modded VR modes. And I'm going to, because obviously 7 came out on PSVR, but it never got a VR version on the PC, so that they're doing that.
No, and 7 for me was still one of the best VR experiences I think I've had as well.
Yeah, there you go. And 8 never had a VR mode, so yeah, it's really exciting.
Wow, yeah, no, interested in hearing more about that down the line. So I've got 2 more games that I'm going to talk about. One I'm just going to touch on briefly because I've been playing it on and off for I want to say a few weeks now. I keep meaning to mentioning it, but I keep forgetting. So I'm going to mention it now. It's called Chessplosion. It's an indie game made by a small team. I don't play many of those.
Yeah, never talk about them either.
No, never. And essentially what you've got here is... I don't want to boil it down to chess, but with Bomberman. But I suppose that's the best way of describing it. So it's an arcade action puzzle game set on a chessboard, and what you do is you drop chess-shaped bombs into the playing area, and obviously different chess pieces move in different ways, and that affects how the bombs go. So you kind of put pieces down, and you kind of create, the idea is to create this like chain effect. So you put one down, then it'll create a bomb explosion to another one, which will hit another one, create another one, and create another one. You create these chain reactions to try and trap opponents and defeat enemies and different bosses within the area. And it's one of those games where you look at it and just go, that seems needlessly complicated, but it's not. You don't need to know how to play chess, which is the weirdest thing about it, because someone who knows how to play chess. You don't need to know how to play chess, but it can teach you chess, and why understanding chess can get you further into the game. So it's like, do you know when you like play, I don't know, Magic the Gathering, for example, or Pokemon, you don't need to understand the most in-depth things about it. It's you play cards to try and beat the other person. You get that simplicity. But the more you learn, the better and more rewarding the experience is. And that's the same with Chessplosion. You've got, so there's like this adventure mode, which is almost like a giant tutorial, I suppose, in a way. And then there's like a puzzle mode, which gives you like limited bombs. There's survival mode where you need to try and survive in it as well. And you've got battle mode that can be played, I think, online and against the AI as well. And it just plays really, really well. It's a great take on 2 different genres. As I say, it's where you place them down, is how the explosions go, and the enemies are moving at the same time, so you have to almost preempt where enemies are moving on the ball to try and catch them. So, it's just so many little subtle things. I don't think I'll go into it in too much detail without making it overcomplicated in the description. I say, all I can really say is play it, and it just makes sense. I mean, one of the enemies, the Queen in it, is like a bullet hell type boss. Like the rooks, they charge at you and stuff like that. And it's got so many different layers on it. And it feels like it should be slow paced in a way. And it's like, is it a bit lethargic to play? Because I think Tetris. Chess could be a little bit slow paced, and I get why some people don't like it. I love the strategy of it, but this kind of brings up the pace a bit and makes it work in a way that chess can be confusing to people. It takes that confusion out of it using bombs and attacks in certain ways. It's just a really good, fun game.
You've just inadvertently created a new game called, saying Chestris. I just imagine now, the pieces dropping down the well, and they can only move into spaces that using chess moves. There you go. There's a free idea for everybody.
Oh my god, I want it.
I know, I thought you would. But yeah, no.
To be fair, you could put anything with Tetris and I'll go, yeah, I'm done. FPS Tetris, yeah.
Do you know, that's not a bad idea. You have to shoot things in it. Yeah, okay, we could go on forever with this. But yeah, no, Chessplosion looks really good. I'd seen it a little while ago, and yeah, you've just refreshed my memory. What a cracking idea, dead simple, but seems to just work really well. It's one of them that I think focusing on a Switch version, a handheld version, would be the best. Which means I will probably wait and get it when I get my Steam Deck, because it'd be ideal on that, because it'll be cheaper.
Yeah. Oh, it will be, and it's so. Again, this probably comes down to the whole what the people see as worthwhile. Puzzle games seems to have this thing where people don't see puzzle games as vital to, people here to see a price for puzzle games and go, it's a bit expensive for a puzzle game. And that really does my head in, because puzzle games will give you the most bang for your buck. You pay 30 quid for Tetris, you're going to get probably more per hour in terms of value than most other games you'll play. Chessplosion's just over 9 quid. I think I got it in a sale. I think I got it quite lucky. I think I got it for about like $7.99 or something like that. And I'm anything that's chess based and tries to do something different with it, all over that. 5D chess, tried it, couldn't do it, but this, really like it. It's just over 9 quid, and honestly, that is, they could charge double that and you're still getting value for money out of it with what's in there. There's well over 100 different puzzles modes in there with adventure mode and stuff like that. It all comes together. It's a wonderful little package. So, and what's really good as well on the accessibility side of this is you can get help. So if you are struggling, it's got like a full-on assist mode, which doesn't play the game for you, but really gives you some good, look, have you tried doing this type things? And it helps you learn throughout the game, and it doesn't punish you for it at the same time. So again, really good accessibility's in there. Just under a tenner. I say, handheld, this would be perfect for. If this was on Switch, gladly, but Steam Deck coming, it was ideal for on the go on Steam Deck for sure.
Yeah, I think that puzzle games can be a little bit of a tougher sell, and I think some of it is the fault of the the buying public, in that they're often not the most beautiful games. They're not pushing the boundaries very much, but a lot of it's just the fault of the universe, in that you often with puzzle games you don't know if you're going to like them until you've played them, and some of them you don't know if you're going to like them until you've played them for quite a while, and you can get stung a little bit by going, oh, that looks great, buying it, and it's crap. Or you can ignore something that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I didn't play Super Puzzle Fighter for years because I looked at it and I was just like, I'm not going to like that. And then I had a game at a friend's house and I was like, oh, this is cracking, So,
yeah.
And it works in both directions. So it is, it's a tougher sell, and I think people then price it lower because they think, well, it's better to make some money off it and get underpaid than it is to make no money off it at all, which is not fair, but it's that's the way it is.
Well, and you look at games like Ecstasy and Mixolumia. Again, as much as I will talk up Tetris and Tetris Effect, which is the best game of the year and will be my game of the year, games like Ecstasy and Mixolumia should be in that discussion because they are that damn good. Chessplosion, I think, is a game that should be in that discussion when we're talking about games of the year. I hate that we have this overall game of the year. I really do, because you can have your favourite game, which is fine, and Tetris would trump everything for me, but then I'm not going to turn around and say, oh, but so and so doesn't work because it doesn't fit into this particular job. But I could turn around and go like Bonito Days, one of the best arcade games I've played this year. So that's up there. That's in that discussion for me as one of the best arcade games I've played, but doesn't fit into that same genre as Tetris for me, which is my overall top game. So I think I'd love to see more and more people getting exposure to sort of great puzzle games. As I said, I will beat the drum for Ecstasy, one, because it is the best accessibility options in a game that I've seen for years. It plays really well. It takes two existing games and somehow makes something feel fresh about them. Mixolumia we've spoke about on so many occasions, but all wonderful games. And yeah, I want to see more of these games just get the audience they absolutely deserve.
Yes, I'm hopeful that the future is bright for these things, because what you've got with Game Pass is that it's going to be forcing other companies to follow the same route. There's no doubt about it. And, I think we're seeing it already with the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation in general, thinking now, well, we've got to start moving on to PC because it's this really lucrative market that we've not really exploited. And, it's a revenue stream that we're ignoring. And if they do that, it would be they get even more revenue if they create a subscription service that people can get onto. And if you do that, then you can go on to you can play curated games that you wouldn't necessarily buy, and particularly puzzle games, because everyone has their own genres that they're will just like, I'm leaping on that, I'm paying the money, I'm not even looking twice. And those who go, well, that's a very much a wait and see, or wait for it to be cheap, and it erases that barrier for people. So yeah, I'm hopeful that puzzle games will get a really good treatment from that.
Well, we're going into a month where you've got Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5 releasing on Xbox. And the game that seems to be getting the most love so far on Game Pass is a lovely little puzzle game that I've not been able to play yet because, it looks just a bit too bright for me at the moment, called Unpacking, where the concept is you just unpack boxes because you've moved home and you've got to put things in the right places. And that's all it is. It's relaxing. It's a puzzle game. And everyone I've heard talk about is like, you've got to try this game. You've got to try this game on Game Pass. We could wax lyrical about Game Pass and other subscription services. And there's an overall chat I actually want to have down the line about it. But again, we've seen when you get these games into the right places, they do get the momentum, but getting them into the right places and getting the eyes on them is so difficult at the moment. But yeah, obviously check out Chessplosion is what I'm trying to say with this one. It's one that's going to fly under the radar. Ed Boon likes it, so
So yeah, it's one I'm definitely getting, but with the caveat that it won't be until I have the Steam Deck, which will hopefully be in the early part of next year, which crazily is only a couple of months away now. So
I know, I keep thinking I've got ages. I wasn't going to get it because my son changed his mind and wants a wheel for his birthday and Christmas and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I should probably cancel that. But I'm still looking at it going, it's only a £5 down so far. And I really, 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 really want it. I can find, I've got time, and then looking at it going, oh crap, I haven't actually got that much time.
No, it's just unbelievable how fast everything's going. It's just nuts. Yeah. But on the plus side, if you get it, you can probably sell it for a profit immediately. If you really didn't, if you needed the money or you didn't want it. So
no, I just want a portable indie machine. I really want one. I will find a way. I might set up a GoFundMe. Don't know why.
Yeah, people love to buy people presents through GoFundMes rather than anything important.
Yeah. I need a Steam Deck to keep mental health gaming going.
Yeah.
or I could get what again, or I've lost a year of my life. What I could do is having my vision back so I can actually get the videos going again and everything, and actually give people a reason to want to support us on Patreon and stuff.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
No. So the final game I've been playing was sent to me as a review code, and that is Dying Light on the Switch, the Platinum Edition. Now, I had an internal discussion with myself over this. Dying Light, was it ever a AAA game, or was it only AA? Where would you put it?
Oh, it was never a AAA game when it came out. No, definitely.
Right. I know Dead Island wasn't. That was hyped up to buggery because obviously that's probably the most infamous trailer in all of gaming. But I know that was B-movie game in a that seemed to have a studio budget for marketing. Dying Light, I remember playing that first time round and kind of really, really enjoying it, and then going, where's the hype? Where's the hype? Lots of people seem to be talking about it, but not in a way that seemed to be overly positive all the time about it. There seemed to be a lot of, it's all right, but, there's this and that, and I just really enjoyed it. And then I kind of bounced off it because it's like the one thing I had an issue with the game was that there was a lot of faffing around, and I didn't have enough time to sit at a TV and faff around. So I remember seeing that as one of the guys going, do you know what, that'll be really good on? That'll be really good on the Vita. Like remote play on the Vita. So I could, just pop it on the Vita and do the faffing around bit and then just do the main quests when I'm at home and stuff like that. And so it kind of never got round to it. And then he got the following DLC, which I tried, and that was really good. It was janky in places. But anyway, Dying Light 2's coming out later this year or early next year. And as part of that, they've released their Platinum Edition. Dying Light 2 is coming to the Switch as a remote play game, or whatever it's called, a cloud game, sorry. But they've released Dying Light Platinum Edition as a native game on the Switch. So I was like, do you know what? Yeah, I want to give this a go again. I really do want to give this a go. I'm not going to review the game itself. I think it's, it's old enough, people know about it. It plays, if you liked Dying Light, you're going to like Dying Light. If you didn't like Dying Light, you're not going to like Dying Light. Again, the fact they've got this working well on a Switch is impressive. I've not noticed any major slowdown or anything like that. And I'm having a really good time with it. I had to put early parts of it on a bigger screen because the tiny text, that again, the big problem with any of these games on handheld, tiny text, tiny maps. So I had to play it on the big screen to get going. But I've been playing the bulk of the game on the monitor and then just faffing around doing side quests and little fetch quests and things like that on handheld. And it works really, really, really well for that. And I think it's why I really, despite the issues, I said I'll come back round to it, the issues with The Witcher 3 on a technical level, that they had to take stuff away. The fact that I could just potter around in handheld mode was enough for me to make that game last. Just put it on the big TV, do the big missions and stuff like that, the meat of it, and then just do the faffing around parts on the handheld. And again, Dying Light really lends itself to it really, really well. And what I'm interested to see, leading on from that, is how well something like GTA does on the Switch. Because again, I think that lends itself really well to the faffing around bit, to being able to take that handheld. But yeah, Dying Light. Did you ever play the original release of Dying Light?
No, I've never played it.
No, really, really good. It's an under the radar game. It's definitely an under the radar game. It's it doesn't push anything. I'm playing it on story mode, which is like easy mode at the moment, just because I'm getting old and I haven't got time for the challenge. But it's like the idea of like at night, like the zombies and that, they can start free running and like proper going after you, so you've got to get to safety, but you're the one with more power probably during the day, and unless you're a complete idiot, you should be able to get through. But the setting works really well. I think it's got a decent enough story. It's a little bit too single American guy comes in and saves the day from the savages. It's aged, but even though it's only 5-6 years old, it's aged that little bit poorly there. But it's but overall, I think it's it tries to tell a decent story for its time. It plays well. It controls well on the Switch. I'm not fighting the Joy-Cons with it. And yeah, just generally, it's a really good port again. So it'd be interesting to see what the sequel actually has, because with that being cloud based on the Switch, how much it has actually improved on the original game. But the original one runs really, really well, and really good game.
Yeah, I think that's one of the... It's not like a revolution, but I think that's one of the things that's just going to be much, much more common, of like being able to play things on multiple devices in different formats and different different focus depending on which format you use it in, and streaming parts of it, but recognising it can't be fully streamed because of latency and stuff like that. So yeah, no, that's really cool, and it's good that you're using the Switch in that way. And I think the only reason that it is because Nintendo have got so much clout and they've got so much money that they're able to put that kind of thing in, whereas if it was any other handheld, you just couldn't afford it. But it's got such a massive user base and so many people using it in so many different ways that you can. So yeah, no, that's really good. Thumbs up for that.
Yeah, I don't know about any of the I think it's had like the remaster treatment, re-release treatment, or whatever via like the Xbox Series and PlayStation 5 and PC and everything. But the Switch version, again, if I was going to play it, it wasn't that I was going to play it like full blown again, because I've done that. It was purely intrigue to play it on the Switch. And again, I would be happy with a game that basically had a full-blown mode, so a TV mode and handheld mode, so that if you played it in handheld, it actually just changed the game a bit, maybe allowed you to do other stuff, or took out the meaty parts, which then could be powered via a docked system down the line. I think I'd like to see something like that, where you play a more meatier version of a game on the TV, but could take a handheld version away with you that allows you still to progress in certain ways. I think very much like the Dreamcast tried to do with the VMU, which I still think is, okay, the Dreamcast so ahead of its time, many Sega things so ahead of their time. I think that is the precursor to remote play and the Switch and stuff like that. And they done that with like being able to raise your chocobo and stuff like that in certain games. Yeah. So, again, I don't think the Switch, as we see it now, is going to be the end game. I want to see what developers could do in terms of actually how can we utilise a future Switch from big screen gameplay to handheld gameplay.
Yeah, it's really sort of interesting time. It's going to be good to see where it goes, definitely.
And if you can't do it on that, take it to the arcades.
Oh, yes, please.
But yeah, no, that's it from me. I've played my year's worth of big budget games.
I know, that's that done.
And a couple of days worth of indies.
Do you think that you will play the big ones coming up, like Halo and Forza?
Yes. Only one reason, they're on Game Pass.
Yeah.
I honestly, I treat Game Pass for AAA games like most people treat Game Pass for indie games.
I know.
I'll give. Halo Infinite. Halo. It's a legacy Halo now. I think it's gaming royalty. So yes, I'm going to give that a go one way or another. And I believe as I said, I think I put on Twitter, I feel like we're the only outlet that didn't request a review code for Forza Horizon 5, because everyone's reviewing it and it's doing really, really well on the reviews. So yeah, that's it really for this week. I've been playing plenty of games. I wanted to play catch up. I didn't really want to talk about anything mental health wise. I've been through a lot. I know you've been through quite a bit as well, Stu. Other people we know are going through some stuff, and I think we can agree sometimes helping mental health, your own mental health, and maybe for others, is to not talk about it and to just, again, a bit of a palate cleanser, just to take your mind off of the crap that's going round. So hopefully, if anything, me going on about accessibility in games and telling you've got to play these indie games, Stu mentioning VR again, and us having a bit of a chat about arcades, hopefully that's taking your mind off things for an hour or so. So yeah, no, thank you. And as usual, unless Stu's got any other games to add, I've just gone, no, we're done now, but Stu might be playing a game that none of you have ever thought of before that could be the best thing ever, or he could take us out. I'll leave it up to him.
I've got a couple. You mentioned, you might have noticed I mentioned mini motorways earlier. That yes. I might talk about. I've only really just started, so I'll talk about that more next week. And funnily enough, you mentioning Dying Light, I found that I've got in my library in Steam, but not installed, The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, which is a VR game, and it's got a good rep. I didn't even know I had it. I must have got a free key or part of a bundle or something. So I'll have to have a go with that as well and report back. So those two are probably going to crop up next week. But yeah, no, apart from that, for now, that's it. And I hope you all take care and look after yourselves and seek out the things that make you happy. And apart from that, just stay safe and stay sane.